Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves, because what I'm about to reveal will leave you gasping and questioning everything you thought you knew about the world of fame, family, and power. This isn't just a story about a celebrity scandal or a minor run-in with the law. This is about survival, betrayal, and a chain of events so shocking that even the most loyal fans are left speechless. Imagine this: King Harris, the son of rap royalty T.I., lying in a hospital bed, fighting for his very life after a brutal and almost unimaginable prison attack. The question on everyone's lips is simple: how did it come to this? Was it a violent clash with guards gone wrong, a premeditated setup, or something even darker lurking behind the scenes? And where was T.I., the king of the South, while his son teetered on the very edge of life and death? Phones were buzzing. Social media exploded. The internet went into complete meltdown as shocking footage surfaced, showing moments no parent should ever be forced to witness. Families cried, fans panicked, and the entire world watched helplessly as a young man's future hung by a thread. Could anyone have predicted that the son of a rap mogul would end up here, tangled in a nightmare that reads less like reality and more like the plot of a psychological thriller? The truth is, this chaos didn't just begin inside the prison walls. Long before King Harris even stepped foot behind bars, tensions were simmering beneath the surface. Those closest to him, friends, rivals, and insiders, all sensed the ticking time bomb waiting for a spark. And when that spark came, it ignited a firestorm that nobody saw coming. Overnight, King Harris went from a rising star and the son of a rap legend to the centerpiece of one of the most shocking scandals in hip-hop history. The tragedy of this story is that King's life had always been played out in the public eye. From childhood, every step he took was scrutinized, judged, and dissected. Growing up under the spotlight of his father's fame meant that his mistakes, his successes, and even his private struggles were magnified 100-fold. But nobody, not even his most vocal critics, could have imagined that his story would spiral into a fight for survival against the very people who were supposed to uphold the law. And yet here we are, watching in real time as speculation, rumor, and whispered conspiracies flood every corner of the internet. Sources close to the prison system claim the attack on King wasn't random. Guards on duty that night reportedly went far beyond standard protocol, allegedly targeting him with what some witnesses have chillingly described as a coordinated assault. It wasn't a moment of chaos or an accident, they claim, but a deliberate act designed to send a message. There's speculation that jealousy, resentment, or long-standing grudges within the system may have played a role. The fact that King carried such a recognizable last name could have made him more of a target, not less. Despite his celebrity background, or perhaps because of it, he may have been treated like any other inmate, but with a cruelty that seemed intentionally calculated. And so the burning question emerges: who stands to gain from King Harris being pushed to the very edge of life and death? That question haunts the story, and it is the one that millions are demanding an answer to. Meanwhile, outside the prison walls, T.I. himself was spiraling into his own nightmare. Reports suggest that he was frantic, desperate, pleading with anyone who would listen while becoming increasingly vocal online. He called out officials, demanded answers, and even threatened legal action. Clips of him shouting into his phone, his emotions raw and unfiltered, spread like wildfire across social media. For fans, the sight was devastating. A father reduced to tears and rage, begging for the safety of his child. A father's panic is universal, relatable to anyone who has ever loved a child. But when that father is a global rap icon whose influence stretches far beyond music, the stakes suddenly become astronomical. T.I.'s public statements painted a picture of a system collapsing in real time, failing not just a family in crisis, but the very principles of justice it claimed to uphold. His vulnerability, normally shielded by bravado and strength, was laid bare for the world to see. And the more he spoke out, the more questions were raised about what was really happening behind those prison walls. And then came the footage. Leaked online, the clips were as shocking as they were devastating. Grainy, chaotic, filled with confusion and violence, the video showed hallways erupting into pandemonium, guards moving aggressively, fists flashing, the sound of bodies colliding. And at the center of it all, King Harris, almost unrecognizable in some frames, struggling desperately against overwhelming force. Other inmates could be seen in the background, frozen with fear, some watching helplessly, others turning away as if they dare not involve themselves. The reaction on social media was immediate and explosive. For some, the footage felt staged, too dramatic, too perfectly chaotic, almost like a movie scene. For others, it was the undeniable proof of a conspiracy, a deliberate attempt to break King Harris both physically and mentally. But no matter which side you stood on, one thing was clear. The emotional impact of those videos was staggering. Millions of people across the world watched as a young man's life seemingly spiraled out of control in real time, powerless to intervene, forced to become passive spectators in a tragedy unfolding before their eyes. Adding fuel to an already raging fire were the countless rumors and theories surrounding the cause of the attack. Whispers began to circulate that sensitive information had been deliberately leaked, putting a target on King Harris's back. Was it personal? Was it professional? Or was it something far more sinister? An orchestrated attempt to make a spectacle out of someone so visible? Analysts and insiders wasted no time weighing in, flooding online platforms with speculation. Viral threads popped up overnight, each one attempting to piece together the puzzle. Conspiracy theories ran rampant, with some suggesting it was an inside job, while others painted the assault as part of a larger scheme to destabilize T.I. himself. And with each passing hour, the narrative shifted further away from being a simple prison altercation and into the territory of systemic corruption, intimidation, and abuse of power. The attack wasn't just about King anymore. It had become a lightning rod for debates about justice, celebrity, and the dangerous intersection of fame and vulnerability. While King Harris fought for his life inside the ICU, his family was thrust into a period of unimaginable heartbreak. Overnight, the Harris household, once seen as a symbol of wealth, influence, and power, was transformed into the stage of a tragedy. Sources close to the family described sleepless nights, frantic phone calls, and tearful vigils as loved ones clung to hope that King would survive. For T.I., the pain was twofold. He was not just a father desperate to protect his child, but also a man whose carefully built empire suddenly seemed fragile, under siege from forces he could not control. Fans, moved by the raw humanity of the situation, flooded Twitter and Instagram with messages of support, prayers, and solidarity. But behind the encouraging words lay an unshakable truth. This was a family in crisis, grappling with a nightmare that money, fame, and influence could not shield them from. What made the situation even more combustible was the timing. Reports suggest that the attack occurred not long after King had become entangled in a separate legal controversy linked to other high-profile incidents. Some insiders suggest that factions within the prison system, as well as powerful figures outside of it, may have seen this moment as the perfect opportunity to act. The speculation grew louder and louder until it dominated online conversations. Every leaked snippet, every new update, every anonymous insider's claim added another layer of tension, another reason for fans and critics alike to feel the emotional weight of the story. Anonymous sources also claimed that medical teams were overwhelmed in the aftermath of the attack, forced to make split-second decisions to keep King alive. Rumors of undisclosed trauma, life-threatening injuries, and emergency interventions only fueled the sense of dread. This wasn't just another scandal. It had become a fight for life and a test of survival, watched by millions around the globe. However, inside the hospital where King was rushed after the attack, silence drowned out everything. No news crews, no flashing cameras, no loud chatter. Just the rhythmic hum of machines keeping him alive. Tubes ran from his arms, his body swollen from trauma, his skull fractured in multiple places. He didn't look like the brash, confident young man that fans had seen posing for photos, flashing grills, and playing the role of a star in the making. He looked like a stranger, broken, vulnerable, and clinging to life. At his side stood his father, Clifford T.I. Harris, a man who for decades had been untouchable in music, business, and the culture. But in that moment, none of it mattered. T.I. wasn't a rapper, he wasn't an icon, he wasn't the king of the South. He was just a father with tears streaming down his face, begging whatever power was listening not to take his son away from him. He didn't ask for justice, he didn't call for revenge. All he whispered, with his body trembling, was, "Please, just give me one more second. Don't take my boy from me." And in that raw breakdown, the world saw him not as a superstar, but as a man stripped of everything except love and fear. The chilling part of this story isn't just what happened, it's how it happened. Prisons are designed to be secure, locked down, and covered at every angle by surveillance. Cameras track movements, guards patrol corridors, every step is supposed to be monitored. Yet just before King was attacked, entire sections of the prison cameras went down. Not one camera, not one glitch. Entire dead zones appeared at the exact place and the exact time King Harris was led into that corridor. And just like that, the most crucial minutes, the attack itself, were left unrecorded. Investigators later claimed the footage was unrecoverable, a malfunction, a coincidence. But who really believes that? If this were a random brawl, the cameras would have caught it. The fact that the only missing footage is of the very place where King was ambushed doesn't scream coincidence. It screams design. Someone wanted him attacked. Someone wanted it hidden. And someone inside the system made sure silence would replace the evidence. From day one, whispers started trickling out. Not from tabloids, not from blogs, but from inside. Inmates using smuggled burner phones, workers speaking in hushed tones, voices too scared to go on record, but too shaken to keep quiet. Their stories aligned. King Harris hadn't just stumbled into danger, he had been called to it, lured into a blind spot, led into a trap. And the attackers weren't sloppy, they weren't wild. They moved fast, they moved precise, they struck with purpose. One voice claimed they weren't acting alone, they were following orders that came from higher up. This wasn't about prison yard beef or a petty squabble, it was a message. A calculated hit with King Harris as the target. Meanwhile, as rumors and theories swirled outside, T.I. was collapsing inside hospital walls. The man who had stood unshaken in courtrooms, boardrooms, and stadium stages was now shaking, his voice breaking in half. Witnesses described him on his knees, clutching his head, begging, "Please don't take my son from me. I don't care about justice, I just want him alive." His words weren't for the cameras, they weren't for the public, they were for the universe. And when videos of his breakdown leaked online, they didn't feel like gossip, they felt like grief. In seconds, the internet transformed into a prayer vigil. #PrayForKing trended globally. Fans flooded timelines with candle emojis, music tributes, and desperate pleas. But alongside the love came the darker wave: suspicion, conspiracy, and questions that no one in authority seemed willing to answer. Then came the voice that pushed everything over the edge. A nurse, allegedly working inside the ICU, spoke anonymously through static-filled audio. Her words shook the internet. This wasn't random. His injuries weren't just brutal, they were tactical. His skull was targeted, his collarbone fractured, and no one stepped in to stop it. They didn't want him hurt, they wanted him gone. Those words spread like wildfire. Within hours, the internet was ablaze. This wasn't just a fight gone wrong, this sounded like an execution attempt, a statement, a calculated effort to remove King Harris permanently. Reports soon revealed what had been used in the attack. Not fists, not makeshift shanks, but a padlock stuffed inside a sock. It's a weapon infamous inside prisons, cheap, brutal, and effective. With each swing, it can shatter bone, crush skulls, and leave lasting trauma. King Harris was allegedly struck multiple times across the head and shoulders with this weapon. And yet what disturbed people the most wasn't the weapon, or even the act. It was the role of the guards. Multiple witnesses claimed officers were present. They saw the attack starting, and instead of intervening, they stood back. Some laughed, some even taunted. When investigators later pressed for surveillance, the answer was identical across the board. The cameras weren't working. A malfunction. Again, coincidence. But as more details surfaced, it stopped looking like a malfunction and started looking like complicity. As King lay fighting for his life, hospital insiders reported that he flatlined twice. The first time, doctors managed to revive him. The second time, he barely made it back. Every second was agony for his family. T.I. reportedly collapsed multiple times in the hallway. Tiny, King's mother, fainted under the pressure of waiting, her body giving in to the stress. Staff tried to calm her, but there was no calm. This wasn't the kind of pain that passes. It was the kind that carves scars into a soul. And when clips of Tiny collapsing hit social media, the world didn't see a celebrity family. They saw a family broken, raw, and human in the cruelest of ways. Then the moment that shattered the thin line between suspicion and certainty. A leaked recording, allegedly captured during a guard shift change. In it, a calm but chilling voice admitted, "We were told to stand down. No rescue, no help. Just watch." Those words didn't just raise eyebrows, they detonated across the internet. If true, this wasn't a system failing, it was a system conspiring. It meant the attack wasn't just tolerated, it was orchestrated. The guards weren't bystanders, they were participants in silence. And so the theories expanded. Some pointed to T.I.'s past, rivalries from decades ago, silent grudges buried but never forgotten, enemies from the streets who couldn't touch him directly but could touch what mattered most. Others suggested bigger forces, industry politics, power struggles, and the dangerous crossroads where hip-hop, money, and influence collide. No matter the angle, one theme remained. This wasn't random, it was purposeful, calculated, surgical. As the world absorbed these revelations, something remarkable happened. Fans didn't just mourn, they mobilized. Vigils outside the hospital swelled into protests. Crowds chanted, demanding accountability. "They protect criminals better than they protect a black son," shouted one fan into a live stream that went viral. Social media wasn't just a platform anymore. It was a courtroom, a rally ground, a movement. Celebrities added fuel, posting cryptic warnings and coded messages. One producer tweeted only 9 words, "When you play with power, your bloodline pays the price." And with that, the conspiracy shifted from fringe theory to mainstream debate. By sunrise, the chaos had crystallized into one undeniable truth. Fame does not mean safety. Dynasty does not mean immunity. And in the world where power and revenge dance in the shadows, visibility can make you a target. King Harris wasn't supposed to be here, not hooked to machines, not fighting for his life. He was supposed to be a rising star, the heir to a hip-hop empire. But when legacy collides with old debts, when power battles in silence, the family becomes the battlefield. However, Atlanta is holding its breath tonight. What began as an ordinary jailhouse scuffle has spiraled into a chilling drama that feels ripped straight out of a true crime series. At the center of it all is King Harris, the son of rap icons T.I. and Tiny. Right now, King is fighting for his life in the intensive care unit. His condition so fragile that doctors describe it as hanging by a thread. Across social media, fans are asking the same haunting question. Was this a tragic accident, or is there something darker at play? Could this have been a carefully planned attack meant to silence him? Inside the hospital, whispers spread like wildfire among medical staff. Some claim that his injuries look more like torture than a fight, with cuts, bruises, and internal trauma that don't match a typical altercation. Nurses have refused to leave his side, and doctors quietly warn of potential organ failure. Outside those hospital walls, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are flooded with hashtags like "Pray for King" and "Justice for Harris." Yet even as the world rallies for him, leaks have made the situation even more sinister. Reports hint at masked figures sneaking into his hospital room, machines being tampered with, and security cameras mysteriously cutting out at suspicious times. Anonymous voices allege that orders came from higher up, suggesting that King isn't just fighting for survival, he's fighting against an entire system that may want him gone. The spotlight has always been unforgiving for children of celebrities. Every stumble is magnified, every mistake replayed endlessly. For King Harris, the glare of fame feels more like a magnifying glass burning into his life. Every action, every misstep, every public appearance is dissected with ruthless precision, leaving no room for human error, no room to simply be young. And now, as his life hangs in the balance, it has become clear that the world doesn't just watch celebrities, it watches their children. Every twist of this story is being analyzed, debated, and sensationalized. And for the Harris family, the pain is amplified by the endless scroll of public scrutiny. News that King's condition had worsened in the ICU froze the internet. What was supposed to be just another tabloid-worthy jail incident has become a national conversation, leaving the Harris family trapped in one of the darkest chapters of their lives. How did a young man, raised in fame and privilege, end up in a hospital bed surrounded by machines and fighting for his life? To understand, we need to rewind and look at the moments leading up to this devastating night. It all began inside the jailhouse with what many assumed would be a minor altercation. King, who was already no stranger to controversy, reportedly got caught in a violent ambush. Insiders insist this was no heat-of-the-moment fight. He was blindsided. One second he was in the common area, the next he was hit with fists, kicks, and chaos. The assault was swift, brutal, and calculated. Guards intervened far too late, and by the time anyone reacted, King had already sustained injuries far worse than anyone could have anticipated. The internet's reaction only added another layer of torment. Instead of sympathy, trolls created memes. Gossip sites spun the story for clicks, and critics mocked him relentlessly. For a 20-year-old under constant public scrutiny, the humiliation was unbearable, but behind the memes and social media jokes lay a harsh, unignorable reality. King Harris's condition was critical. Doctors discovered internal damage that went far beyond surface-level bruises, forcing an emergency transfer to a hospital where he was rushed into the ICU. The sight of his son lying unconscious, connected to life support, shattered T.I., a man long known for his resilience and composure. Privately, he broke down, acknowledging that this was a battle money, fame, or influence could not fix. Tiny, King's mother, hasn't left the hospital since her son arrived. She stays glued to his bedside, whispering prayers, refusing to eat, and consumed by fear. Family friends have confirmed that she is determined to hold his hand through every procedure, every test, no matter how grim the updates become. As news of the attack spread, social media erupted with speculation. Some claimed King's lifestyle and reckless choices had finally caught up with him. Others suspected foul play, linking the ambush to old rivalries, gang connections, or grudges tied to T.I.'s past. Anonymous leaks added fuel to the fire, painting a chilling picture of corruption and negligence inside the jail itself. Some sources allege that guards either allowed the ambush to happen, or even worse, looked the other way intentionally, turning a blind eye as violence unfolded. Doctors have warned the Harris family that the next 24 hours are critical. King's body is weak, his internal injuries severe, and the smallest complications could have devastating consequences. Every hour feels like a gamble, a fight between life and death, while the rest of the world debates his fate online. And this is where the story turns darker still. Instead of rallying around King, much of the internet has turned cruel. Memes mocking his ICU state, TikTok reenactments of the attack, and hashtags joking about his condition have spread like wildfire. For some, King's suffering has become entertainment, yet his supporters argue passionately that he is being unfairly vilified. Yes, he made mistakes, but he does not deserve violence, humiliation, or the threat of death. He is barely out of his teens, still figuring out life under the crushing weight of fame, and yet the world seems determined to turn his tragedy into a spectacle. Then came the most chilling development: leaked audio allegedly recorded inside the jail. In the clip, muffled voices can be heard taunting King, threatening him, and laughing as chaos unfolds. Though the authenticity of the recording remains unverified, the implications are disturbing. The clip suggests the attack may have been staged from the start, planned with precision and forethought. Some believe it proves the Harris family's claim that King was deliberately targeted rather than randomly attacked. Speculation erupted across social media. Some claimed jealous inmates seeking notoriety. Others suggested rival groups outside the prison orchestrated the ambush as a warning aimed directly at T.I. The darkest theories claim that King's online behavior may have drawn the attention of powerful enemies who wanted him silenced. Whatever the truth, the Harris family believes this was no accident. Tiny allegedly told a close friend, "Someone wanted to hurt my baby." T.I., largely silent publicly, has reportedly been making phone calls, demanding answers, and quietly investigating who dared to harm his son. Meanwhile, hospital updates continue to paint a grim picture. King's body remains weak, his internal injuries severe, and doctors continue to describe his condition as unstable. Every hour is a test of survival. For T.I. and Tiny, the ordeal has become an unending nightmare. Witnesses describe T.I. pacing the hospital corridors, breaking down in tears, while Tiny refuses to leave her son's side. Their daughter has even taken to social media, begging fans to stop spreading rumors and to simply pray for her brother. But the internet remains divided. Half of it spreads conspiracies and cruel jokes, while the other half prays for a miracle. King Harris remains unconscious in the ICU, his family shattered, and the world holding its breath. The cliffhanger is chilling. Was this a tragic accident or a calculated takedown meant to silence him? And if the latter is true, who ordered it and why? Rumors are now spreading that another video from inside the jail may surface soon. This clip is said to show the exact moment King Harris was attacked. If it emerges, it could either answer questions or completely destroy the Harris family's reputation. Imagine if the footage proves King wasn't only a victim, but may have sparked the fight or been caught in something far darker. People online would tear him apart, leaving scars the family may never recover from. Conversely, if the video shows he was intentionally targeted, it could expose a larger, orchestrated setup that reaches far beyond jail walls. The internet is restless, refreshing timelines, searching hashtags, and waiting for the next piece of evidence. Some claim they've already seen fragments in hidden corners of the web, while others argue it's just hype with nothing real behind it. Regardless, one fact stands out. This nightmare isn't ending anytime soon. The silence from jail officials only intensifies the tension. Their refusal to release details convince many that a cover-up is underway. Fans everywhere are asking the same questions. Why won't they release the footage? And what are they hiding? Meanwhile, King's health remains fragile. Doctors have warned that complications from internal bleeding could worsen at any moment. He has shown small signs of responsiveness, but stability is far away. T.I., pacing the hospital halls, was overheard saying, "If they wanted to break me, this is how you do it." Grief and outrage do not stop the internet. Fake videos, memes, and staged clips continue to spread, with some content creators even producing skits of King's last words to gain views. The cruelty feels endless. Yet the debate rages on. Some critics argue that King's downfall was inevitable, pointing to his history of fights, reckless behavior online, and defiance of authority. For them, he was not only a victim, but someone destined to end up in trouble. Others strongly disagree, arguing that mistakes should never be a death sentence and that the system failed to protect him.
Then, the first shaky video leaks online. Only 7 seconds long, it shows King surrounded by inmates as fists fly and chaos erupts. That brief clip splits the internet into two camps. Hashtag justice for King versus hashtag King got what he deserved. The Harris family is devastated. Tiny pleads online, "This isn't entertainment. My baby is fighting for his life." As the story spread like wildfire, social media transformed into both a battleground and a mourning ground. Hashtags like Save King, hashtag TI Praise, and hashtag ICU Drama trended globally as fans, bloggers, and influencers poured their emotions into timelines. Some users accused the prison of negligence. Others insisted it was part of a coordinated conspiracy aimed at destroying the Harris family empire. A few even questioned whether the footage itself was genuine, fueling debates that refused to die down. But the emotional core of the story was impossible to ignore. The sight of a young man's life hanging in the balance while his father fought desperately for answers created a storm of empathy and outrage. And as fans debated online, the music industry whispered behind closed doors. Executives, label representatives, and influencers all asked the same question. If King Harris doesn't survive this, what will it mean for the Harris legacy, for T.I.'s reputation, and for the future of their empire? Now, after everything we've seen, King Harris hanging between life and death, T.I. begging for his son's safety, leaked footage shaking the world to its core, we are left with questions that may never truly be answered. Who is really responsible? Was this just a brutal and tragic prison attack, or part of a much larger conspiracy filled